is responsible for carrying out the Commandant's agenda, managing internal governance of the organization, and serving as the executive authority for major acquisitions programs. Her recent senior leadership assignments have included Deputy Commandant for Operations, charged with developing and overseeing the execution of operational planning, policy, and international engagement at the strategic level. Commandant of the 14th Coast Guard District, Honolulu, Hawaii, managing operations across nearly 12.2 million square miles of the Central Pacific Ocean. Director of Reserve and Training, where she developed policies to recruit, train, allocate, and support over 12,000 Coast Guard ready reservists, and oversaw all Coast Guard training facilities. Commander of the 5th Coast Guard District, managing Coast Guard operations along the Mid-Atlantic area, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina. And Director of Personnel Management, administering an extensive range of service-wide human resource programs. She has over 36 years of active military service. A native of Annapolis, Maryland, Admiral Brice-O'Hara graduated from Goucher College in 1974 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. She received her Coast Guard commission from Officer Candidate School the following year. She holds a Master's of Arts degree in Public Administration from Harvard University, John F. Kennedy School of Government, where she was named a Littauer Fellow, and a Master of Science degree in National Security Strategy from the National War College. She and her husband, Bob, have 2 sons. It is a great honor to welcome our commencement speaker, Vice Admiral Sally Brice-O'Hara.
Well, good morning. Dr. Hartford, thank you for that very kind introduction. I wish that my mother had been here to listen to that. Well, I will tell you, having walked in here and felt the energy, there is no doubt that this weather did nothing to diminish the spirit and the anticipation and the celebrations of this wonderful day. Dr. Hartford, Chairman Ewell, to all the Meredith College faculty and staff, the families, the many friends who've gathered, good morning. And good morning, class of 2011. You are awesome. What do you think? Well, congratulations. It's an exciting day. It's the culmination of many years of hard work and study. It's the end of your time here at Meredith College, unless you recycle back as a graduate student, or perhaps in another role in the future. And certainly, it is the beginning of what will be a very challenging but promising future ahead of each of you. You are surrounded by supporters. Your parents, as already has been acknowledged, Happy Mother's Day. I'm not sure what is the greatest gift, whether it's no longer having to write that tuition check, or if it's saying, she did make it. But in either case, moms especially are smiling this morning. But it's also siblings, spouses, maybe some children, friends, professors, the staff, the alums, the trustees, all who delight in your achievements, and they are very, very proud of you. Now, I'm not the first Coast Guard speaker on this campus. Alex Haley, the author, who was a Coast Guardsman as well, was here for a convocation in the early 80s. And what he told the campus then was to find the good and praise it. Well, graduates, help me, join me with your hands, your voices in showing praise for all of that community of supporters who've been holding you up. So you might know that I graduated from a small women's college, very much like Meredith College. Now, I was a member of an esteemed even year class. I married an odd man. Oh, I'm sorry, dear, an odd year man. This morning was my first time to your campus, and yet it felt warmly familiar. It brought back memories of my time at Goucher. I can certainly anticipate what you're feeling. It's joy, perhaps it's a little bit of concern about what lies ahead, and it's certainly mixed with some sadness of leaving this community that you have grown to love. I relished my years at Goucher College, though I'm not quite sure that I enjoyed my time at school quite as much as you have, because only Meredith College, it seems, has a legendary tradition, a phenomenon known as cornhusking. Now, I'm so intrigued by what I've heard about cornhusking that I've considered adding it to my retirement bucket list. Become a proud graduate student at Meredith College and attend cornhusking. But it is certainly a privilege for me to be able to share this very special day with you. Thinking back, I regret that I remember very little about my graduations other than that tremendous sense of accomplishment, albeit it was tinged by apprehension about what lay ahead. So my husband challenged me to identify my graduation speakers and to tell him what they spoke about. I nearly drew a blank. I remember Colin Powell, but the specifics of his address are lost. And so therefore, I'm realistic. I know you're not going to remember my name. That's okay. But I hope that my message can be recalled. And to help you, I'm going to recommend that you add one more book to your reading list. It's a book that I've selected because I believe that it distills and encapsulates all that you have learned during your 4 years at Meredith College. Now, the parents may know that each year the college adopts a campus-wide development theme. I believe that I've found the one book that incorporates all 4 of the annual themes since you've been here. Now, unlike the pricey textbooks that you've had to purchase, this one is really quite reasonable. I hope you're not upset that years of costly education can be condensed into one simple book. Horton Hears a Who. You probably recognize Dr. Seuss was the author. In fact, you may remember the movie animation of this book opened in theaters across the country during your spring break, freshman year. Maybe you saw it. The story's plot is pretty straightforward. I'll retell it in a moment, but first, allow me the liberty of postulating the notion that the 2 main characters in the book are graduates of a solid liberal arts educational experience, probably colleges like Meredith, with a faculty so wise and caring enough that they overlaid each academic year with a globally relevant and university applicable focus, such as ethical leadership, sustaining our environment, being a catalyst for change, and critical thinking for critical times. Meredith College's development themes these past 4 years. So here's the plot of the story. One day, Horton, who's an elephant, hears a tiny voice in the air calling for help. And he soon realizes that that voice is coming from just a speck of dust that's floating in the air past him. Well, it turns out that there's a tiny, entire world of people. They're called Who's, and they live on this speck of dust. And their mayor, who Horton cannot even see, pleads with Horton for help and for protection. Horton obliges. He takes the speck of dust, and he picks a soft clover flower and nestles it carefully on the blossom. But the other animals in the jungle cannot hear the cry for help. and they don't believe that Horton is telling the truth. How in the world could those who's exist? So they make fun of Horton. They even try to destroy the clover that's carrying that speck of dust. While Horton willingly endures hardship and persecution to bravely protect the little who's throughout the story. Until the end, with much, much effort, the mayor of the dust speck rallies his people, all the who's, to make enough noise so that they would be heard. The other animals finally do hear, and they believe, and they decide to join Horton in protecting the who's. Whoville, their little world, is saved. So let's reflect on your campus theme for this year, critical thinking for critical times. Horton the elephant is obviously a trained critical thinker. He demonstrates what is often critical thinking's most important element, the ability to see something differently than you did before, whether it's a problem, an issue, or what seems to be an inconsequential speck of dust. Besides evidence and data, critical thinking requires a practiced aptitude for listening, for imagination, and for creativity. Horton has those skills. How else could you stretch your mind to believe that there's a whole world on that floating piece of dust? Consider also Horton's awareness of why he and the other animals perceive the situation at hand so very differently. Critical thinking demands an understanding of how we, as well as all those around us, process information. Horton understands. He makes sense of a senseless situation by realizing the reason that he and he alone perceives the who's plight. It's those giant elephant ears. This wisdom is the first step in his bringing all the animals to resolution. Horton is a critical thinker. How about ethical leadership? That was your first year theme. Can you see how Horton practiced ethical leadership? Practice is the right term to use. Leading ethically is an action. Horton is an ethical leader, but not simply because he recognized that the little world of Whoville required protection. He's an ethical leader because he had the courage to translate and sustain his ethical decision into action and an outcome. And that was despite the mocking and all of the poor treatment by his animal friends that he had to bear. And it wasn't easy, and yet he willingly suffered to do the right thing. Horton is an ethical leader. And then there's being catalysts for change. That was last year's theme. Now, at this point, we should look to the mayor for a lesson. The mayor of that dust speck provides an apt illustration because in this story, the catalyst for change comes in the form, as it often does, the raising of voices, the magical moment of synergy that occurs when the critical mass within society becomes aware and begins speaking out loud to either advance the conversation past a tipping point or to amplifying the volume to a level where that need for change can no longer be ignored. The who's needed volume, and they narrowly achieved it, but it was only because their mayor was keenly aware that even the most seemingly insignificant efforts could be made to count in effecting change. When all seemed lost, the mayor searched out and found one little person who was not making any noise, and then compelled him to join the effort. The addition of one more voice tipped the balance. The mayor understood the importance of being a catalyst for change. And finally, sustaining our environment. Here, what else could make it more clear that Horton and the mayor both were graduates of fine liberal arts institutions. They were bent on nothing less than saving a world, and they succeeded. The mayor saved his planet in the literal sense, and you don't get more green than that. But look closer and consider Horton's appreciation for his own environment. Now, a less insightful talking elephant might have discounted that speck of dust as being insignificant. Too small to warrant meeting, too small for connection to the larger environment. He understood the relevance and the importance of sustaining their environment, a good thing. So there you have it, the 4 campus themes that were emphasized while you were here at Meredith: ethical leadership, sustaining our environment, being a catalyst for change, and critical thinking for critical times. May Dr. Seuss help you remember them. But what I really hope you take away from this story is a measure of assurance. Assurance that the empowering decision that you made to pursue a solid, innovative, and community-oriented liberal arts education was an excellent one. Like the elephant and the mayor, you are well prepared to be responsible, engaged citizens of the world, and you will rise to meet any occasion in what's ahead of you with much success. I am confident of that. Now, I see a bit of myself in Horton the elephant. We each have gray heads. Horton was both a rescuer and an environmentalist, just like my organization, the United States Coast Guard. I joined the Coast Guard in a different age. My alma mater was all women, yet I entered a predominantly male organization and career. Over the years, I've witnessed a lot of adjustment and change. Now, I'm going to reserve comment on Goucher College going co-ed, but I do a double take every time I see a guy wearing one of our ball caps. But I will say that the Coast Guard is a much better organization with competent, professional women serving in every rank and job description. No opportunity, no job in my service is closed to females. But don't let me get my, thank you. But don't let me get ahead of my story. So, I left Goucher College. I had a degree in sociology, and pretty soon I found myself managing a restaurant. Now, that wasn't exactly the employment that either I or my parents had in mind at my graduation. And you too might find yourselves in transitional positions. The economy, times are tough, but don't waste any opportunity to develop good work habits and build your credentials and the skills that will transfer to your next position. Winston Churchill stated a simple but profound observation. This is what he said: "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." So during one of the late night shifts at the restaurant, I decided that I would give back by pursuing a career in public service in the United States Coast Guard. What most appealed to me is the public benefit of the Coast Guard's missions on a day-to-day basis. At every hour, 24/7, Coast Guard women and men are on watch around the world. They are ensuring the maritime safety and security of our homeland, and they are protecting our nation's interests overseas. At times in my career, I've had an operational role. I was close to the action. I interacted directly with the American citizens that we serve. Those jobs were exciting. They offered the daily gratification of seeing the results of my efforts. And of course, it provided the experience that sharpened my knowledge and my proficiency. But in other assignments, I had supportive functions. I was deep inside the Coast Guard, playing a role equally important to our missions but not as glamorous or as fast-paced as being on the front lines. Projects and responsibilities sometimes took weeks and months to bring to fruition. Service requires elbow grease and drudge work, often far from where the action occurs. And yet it's these tasks that are still inspired. And during those times, I could always find inspiration by leading, serving, and supporting the crews on our cutters, boats, and aircraft. I keep them in mind now, enabling their action, saluting their courage, and providing them the resources and the tools that will make their call to service possible. Enabling the success of others is fundamental to good leadership. Now, the secret of my success is not classified. It's not really a surprise or a secret at all. It's critical thinking, ethical leadership, being a catalyst for change, making green, sustainable choices. But it's also realistic expectations, continuous self-improvement, perseverance, hard work, and yes, even surviving the occasional unpleasant duty or demanding circumstances. I followed orders, I voiced my opinions, I stood up for my convictions, and I respected the people with whom I worked. I learned what to do and what not to do. I learned what motivates and what causes stress among my coworkers and teammates. I stayed connected and informed. I was a player amongst a diverse workforce. I empowered others, and I held them and myself responsible and accountable. So here's my advice. First, take care of yourselves. Second, take care of your families. And third, take care of your job. If this sequence becomes inverted or scrambled, you will not be happy or successful. You can have it all, but it's going to require the assistance of others. So never be embarrassed to ask them to give you a hand. And never ever, never ever neglect to say thank you and show your people how much you value them. I'll close with an apt reminder from the former Congresswoman and pioneer Shirley Chisholm. She said, "Service is the rent you pay for your time on earth." Service is the rent you pay for your time on earth. Horton paid rent, I paid rent, your parents have helped pay room, board, tuition, fees, for books, for supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. They paid a lot of rent. So graduates, find out the best way for you to pay your rent. Maybe it's through your career, maybe it will be volunteering on work nights or weekends. And always be a person of integrity. It is the single most important factor to my career. Congratulations again on your significant achievement. Thank your parents, your friends, and this wonderful community for the encouragement and the confidence that they have had in you. President Hartford, what a visionary mentor you've been these last 12 years. All of the best as you make a transition. And I would imagine that Dr. Allen will be watching the video of this ceremony. And I say to her, as she prepares to take the helm of this fine institution, congratulations, but also perhaps her relief is out here amongst today's graduates. Finally, to all of you, stay connected to the college and your classmates. Support the school financially, foster its ideas, cheer on the avenging angels, and send promising young women, as well as those men who are looking for graduate studies in this direction. Indeed, Meredith College is printed prominently on your ticket to a bright, adventurous future. With those campus themes as your lifelong foundation, go out and make your mark. Well done. Admiral.